Hey y'all, Todd / Itinerant Hobbyist here to give you a real brief overview of Blitzkrieg Commander, specifically the 4th edition, but really what I'm going to talk about covers all four editions. But I just want to talk to you about 3 of the concepts that kind of have sold me on the game, the reason I like it. And the purpose of this video is for me just to tell you some of the basics in order for you to understand what the game's about and to see if you're interested in playing it. So, real quick, it is a Blitzkrieg Commander. It's the 4th edition. It is based years ago on the Warhammer system. Oh, not Warhammer, sorry, War Master system, put out by GW a long time ago. Black Powder went a direction with it and changed it, tweaked it a little bit, and this company tweaked it when they first wrote Blitzkrieg Commander. Oh boy, I should know this information, probably 15 years ago, but maybe more than that. But now Pendragon owns Blitzkrieg Commander, and they have put out a 4th edition recently, and they have worked on that. I do want to kind of a disclaimer here. I did do proofing on this edition, and they did take one of my tips and ideas for better play, and it's in the book as well. My only compensation for that was that I did get along with some of the other proofers, I did get a free copy of the book, so that's cool. But I also have bought 2 for myself as well that I'll probably give away on my channel at some point here. So I do have that level of relationship with Pendragon and none other. And I did buy some 10 mil stuff from Leon. I will tell you that I haven't really dealt with Pendragon until this all went down, and I have been very impressed with how they work as a company. Leon seems like a stand-up guy, at least via the internet and via the way he runs his business. So thank you, Leon, and all the team that have been working on this. So Blitzkrieg Commander, it's really it was really made for 6 or 10 mil miniatures, but people play it in 15, and people have played it even in 20 mil. Play it whatever scale you want. The basing doesn't really matter. As you can see, I base in a different way than they say. They recommend 5 centimeter wide bases, depth being a little less important. Of course, they recommend 10 mil because that's what Pendragon does, but they understand a lot of people play it outside of the scale, and it is not dependent on that scale. I am actually going to be playing in 15. I'll get into that in another video, why I went down that route, because I got to tell you, again, I bought Pendragon 10 mil, my very first 10 mil, only 10 mil, and they are great and incredible. And if I were due to 10 mil, they would be my primary source for 10 mil. Very good detail. I was very impressed. They paint well. Awesome. And I'm not a painter, so. But some other basics about Blitzkrieg Commander. Basically, each stand represents a platoon. I'll get into that in a little bit more detail. It does measure in centimeters. Each stand is a platoon, and you probably typically play about a battalion worth or more. 20 to 40 stands is a small, mid-range game, and good. Just real quick, the rule book is about 56 pages of rules. They've expanded some of the explanations from the previous editions and made a few tweaks, but not very many. The next section is 15 different scenarios. Let's see if I can show this on screen here. 15 scenarios like this here. You know, this is scenario 11 and 12, airborne and amphibious assaults. So that's cool. Well, what's the rest of the book? 100-page army list. 100 pages of army lists. Almost every nationality, almost every time frame, almost every theater of action spent, you're going to see it here. I'm just showing you a real quick picture of it. It's got special rules. It's got points if you want to do points. I just do all mine historical and traditional historical formations. So that's amazing. They've also been coming out with, at the Pendragon site, optional rules, some of which I use. They used to be in the book. Now they're just doing them as PDF downloads, which is pretty cool, I guess. But that way it allows them to change and adapt those. The optional rules are general optional rules, terrain, Russian, Japanese, different special rules, optional rules, which is cool. And finally, they've been working with Micromark to come out with some specific lists. I don't really want to show all this. I'll show it real quick, but this is the British 1st Airborne Division list. And it actually breaks the list that you saw briefly in that book into the actual British 1st Airborne Division, Arnhem, September 44. and he has a tactical doctrine. It goes into all the details, same details, but now it tells you first air landing anti-tank battery was made of this, this, and this. It tells you the limits, so that's about how many you would have in the traditional, if everything went in full power, full force. So that's pretty awesome. I did download the 1st Airborne Division. Oh, those are an extra cost, $250 or something like that each. But you do not need those. You can get the micromark list, or you can read an Osprey book, or you can go online and find the unit formations, and most of them go down to at least platoon level. GHQ has all kinds of lists that you can download, and they even get specific. So I think this shows that I like the micromark list. It's nice, but there are others, so you do not have to buy. You only need to buy the book, and you can play the entire war, everything, and not need anything else. They've also started selling templates, which is cool. I'll review those here shortly. But again, you do not need them. All right, what are the 3 core concepts of the game that I really like? And that really kind of make it so I want to play this game more. Well, the first is, they're going to talk about 3 things. How you build an army. Talk about how you build an army. We're going to talk about the concept of battle, how it works in the game, and the concept of command. So, how you build an army. Well, each stand is a platoon, as I said. So that's a unit. Then when you combine a group of units, you create a formation. And then when you put several formations together, you have your battle group. So you will be battling with a battle group. Now, those are generic terms. They can mean whatever they mean. For the most part, most armies meant platoon, company, and your HQ, your CO, support units. Or you could have a whole platoon this is a platoon of tanks, not a platoon, squadron I believe is the term, or platoon of tanks. So this represents 5 tanks. This represents 25 to 40 people, depending on the army and the time of the war. That's something that people struggle with. Sometimes they like, sometimes they don't. That's one reason I want to share this. These are support units. So in this case, what you're looking at here are 2 companies of British paras, each with a company HQ, with a CO, and then their support unit of a heavy Vickers machine gun platoon, a 60mm mortar platoon, and a tank platoon. This would be a light game. This would be very small, and it would be not much to go to battle with. But you certainly could. But I just wanted to use it for illustration purposes. The cool thing is it's a very flexible game. You can structure and do things. You can add little special rules, those optional rules, some other rules. For example, if I wanted to illustrate that they had poor command at one point when they landed, I can take a command unit out. So now there's only one HQ commanding all these units, or maybe the CO commands some of them. Little less flexible. You do this, more flexibility, more command. Why is that? Well, here's how command works. You could even make this Jeep the command of the tanks, for example. How does command work? Well, everyone's got a command value that's a commander. The CO in this case has a 10. The HQ here is a 9. Typically works that way. The CO is ahead of the HQs, and the HQs usually are 1 less. Typically, the lowest they go is 8 and 7. There might be a 7-6. I've not seen it, but an 8 and 7. And then these guys are 10 and 9. So why is that number important? What does that number represent? Well, you roll 2d6 to see if you can command the troops. So these guys would say, I want to command my unit to my formation, my company to move. Need to roll 2d6 and get less than a 9. There are modifiers. I'll get into that in another video in more detail on command. He rolls under a 9 or less, and he passes. So they do what they're going to do. Then, let's say he immediately wants to command him again. He goes, I want him to now fire. So now he can do that, but it's a little tougher to command him, right? Because there's some chaos in the battlefield. There's a little cohesion stress happening. So now he has to roll an 8 or less. Say he passes. Now he can command him again with a 7 or less. And that goes on down to 2 or less. Now, if it's 2 or less, unless I'm not understanding the rules, you can keep going. But the chances of continuing rolling 2s with other modifiers, pretty unlikely. Actually, that would be, I guess you couldn't keep going. Now, here's a fun thing. If you roll a 2, so 2 ones, you would actually get a bonus action. So you could actually do something else after you did your first action. You could do a second one immediately. That's cool. But be careful. If you roll 2 6s, you foobar, and you have to, something bad will happen when you roll on a table with 2d6. So that's basically how command works. But guess what? You could also, like I said, roll a 12 or roll something higher. And then your person doesn't get to do anything, your commander, and that's where people get itchy. And that's why I share that concept with you. That some people don't like that. They don't like that chaos of battle. They want to be able to know what their troops are going to do. And your troops may or may not be able to do something. In the command video, I will talk about why that doesn't bother me, and why I think it, for me, abstracts and illustrates chaos and fog of war in the battlefield adequately enough for me. The CO has also got a command value. So let's say your guys failed. Well, he could maybe command them with some penalties potentially. So there are options, and so the CO can lead people. So the CO could be in charge of your support. I always have used the optional rule of fixed formations. The rules as written, you can kind of create your formation each turn to turn. So you know how the armies are built, you know how to command. Now let's talk about how fighting happens, the most fun. Well, the cool thing about it is the concepts are the same, from infantry to tanks to artillery to planes to close assault. The same concept of attacks, saves, and hits are happening. So you don't have to learn new procedures. Close assault's got a couple extra steps, but it's really the same concepts. So there's no new things to learn in that case, which streamlines learning for new people, new players, and it's easy to remember. And there's not a lot of charts, maybe some modifiers to learn. So how it works is infantry unit, you look on your list in that British Airborne list or on the list in the book, and it says they have a number of, if I look on here, it says 5/30, 5/30. That means I get 5 attacks up to 30 centimeters. So there are modifiers, pluses and minuses, adding, subtracting dice, but basically he gets to roll 5d6 to attack the enemy target. You roll those 5 dice, you're looking for a number to hit, like 4+, for example. If you get it, let's say you roll those 5 dice, 3 of them hit, or 3 of them score hits. You then roll 4 saves. Hopefully your unit is in cover, or it's a tank and it gets a save. So let's say you roll those 3 dice to save, and let's say one of them saves. So now you've got 2 hits on that unit. That unit now has 2 hits. There are other things you do, but it's pretty simple and straightforward. Those 2 hits carry on turn to turn. That's an optional rule. Rules as written is that you discard the hits after each turn, so you really want to mash your fire. But I've played with the optional rule since day one, 7 years ago. They keep the hits turn to turn. Once you get up to 6 hits, in the case of a platoon, that platoon is knocked out, and now you're down to some units. The game does have a breaking point, so once your army gets to 50% or less, it could vary by scenario, but once they get to 50% or less, you start rolling dice to see if the game continues or your army goes, I'm out of here. So those are the concepts, how the armies are built, how the command value works, and how attacking works. These are the things I really like about the game. I feel like it's pretty easy to learn, pretty easy to remember. Not a lot of charts to look at. Really, you're just kind of looking at some modifiers. You only look at charts when you foobar, but that doesn't happen very often. You start to really remember, at least I did, quickly how the attacks work, what you need to hit. From turn to turn. You do create army lists like I showed you with that British 1st Airborne. That's probably what you look up most is, okay, what does the tank roll again? Let's see if I have the tank even on here. Probably not, since it's an airborne list and they didn't really have support like that. But like an AT gun, for example, 6-pounder AT gun rolls 460 against infantry, but you can also use that gun to fire 260, so it always fires out at 60 centimeters. rolling 2 dice at human infantry and 4 dice against tanks. I love this game. It's really fun. I've enjoyed playing it for 7 years now. I haven't really done much with version 4 yet because I've been busy with a lot of other things. I'm excited to get it on the table. I'm excited to start making some new videos on how to play. I've got old ones with version 3 if you're interested in that, but I'm going to start making some short ones. There's been some inspiration from other YouTubers who make good instructional videos, so I hope to kind of use some of their models to make my videos a little better. So there you go. That's Blitzkrieg Commander. Give it a shot. Go to Pendragon, buy the PDF, buy the hardback. I think it's available other places, but I don't know right offhand, but it is available at Pendragon. They've really been doing a good job of supporting it. There's an errata document coming out here soon. The game's been out, oh gosh, 6 months maybe. And so they've collected all the errata, the changes, and we'll be releasing that soon. So thanks a lot for watching. I hope that helps you make a decision if you want to move on it or not. And keep watching for more videos, and good rolling out there. See ya.